Okay. Hi, everyone online. I can see you're joining us now. We're just starting the webinar. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. And if you have sort of administrative related things, pop it in the chat. We'll be starting in just about 5 minutes, but I just thought I'd let you know. But I'm going to be out of screen for most of today, but I'll be working in the background to make sure that everything's nice and smooth. So feel free to message me in the chat if you need anything. So again, we'll just be starting in 5 minutes.
What was it called?
What I'll do is I'll stop the video on this one.
So what we want to be able to see.
What did you gonna have to
No, I'm just going to have to be. So can I control it with this slide? No, I just control this slide.
Yeah.
Which was Alt.
So hold down Alt. And then and look up at the monitor, and you just click tab. Any tab.
Oh well, it's there. Okay, with this. Oh no, can I do that?
No, this is better. So Alt tab. And then to go to Geoff's presentation, you go down to this one, and then you release the tab, and you just release the Alt.
Right. So everything's just Alt tab. Well, that's easy.
Okay.
This was just to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't need to see.
Or wherever you want to sit, or you can. You want to sit over here? So if you're not in shot. Yeah, you'll be in shot here. So yeah, it's probably best to do that.
I'll work this out. Is this on? No.
Got a lot to think about.
Yeah, turn up volume. I'm not hearing anything. Don't want to hear anything. Okay. Thank you. How many people online? Oh, so that's okay. Look how many people are online. Actually need to say where the toilet water out the back. You can go through there around there. And the exercise. don't know how many are online. I can't see.
Yeah, that's all right. That's okay.
All that very innocent. It's Marie.
She's about 21.
Oh, you asked. They're only 21. See, I think people talk, you know.
They might join.
Yeah. The time. It's got to pass now, so we'll start. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today. This land holds the deep history, knowledge and stories of the world's oldest living culture. I recognise the strength, resilience and capacity of the Aboriginal community and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Good evening to everyone, and it's great to see you here today. I should start by saying that the bathroom, the toilets are around here. You can go through there or around the back, and the exit is presumably the way you came in. So if we need to exit, you go out that way. So my name's Trevor Brown. I'm the convener of Electrify Armidale. Did we get it? It's up the back now. Sorry, Electrify Armidale here. And whether you've joined us in person or tuning in online, and we've got a large number online tonight, thank you for being part of this growing community conversation. Tonight we're here to talk about energy, comfort and sustainability and how we can make these work better for all of us. Electrify Armidale is a local campaign focused on making energy more affordable and our homes and businesses more comfortable, healthier and safer. Our goal is to ensure this transition is accessible to everyone, including low-income households and people who may not have the time, resources or confidence to explore electrification on their own. Tonight's session is part of a broader initiative we're calling the Armidale Community Driven Shift to Renewable Energy and Sustainability. It's been funded, it's a series of events across this year and going into next year. It's been funded by the Foundation for Rural, Regional and Renewable. We applied for funding and they gave us funding to organise events such as this and to bring wonderful speakers to talk to us about these issues. So past events we had here, home energy upgrades for comfort in every budget. That was 27th of March. Some of you may have been here. And then today we have the renewable energy storage. We've also had workshops, winter warmer session at the Aboriginal Cultural Centre and Keeping Place, workshop considering low-income households, how we may support them, thermal envelope upgrades, and a session with ZNet Home Energy Reviews. And you may have also seen us at stalls at the Armidale Autumn Festival and markets in the mall. Upcoming events, and we're planning for EV and e-bike expos, Electrify Armidale pilot program, local businesses leading the energy transition event, renewable energy zone event, and then another workshop, another winter warmer workshop session with TAFE Adult Migrant English program. But tonight, our focus is renewable energy storage for the home, especially what battery storage can mean for households, communities, and electric vehicles. We're fortunate to have a fantastic panel of guest speakers with us, experts from the Smart Energy Council, the NRMA, Essential Energy, and Genie Energy. And guiding through us this evening is someone many of you already know, Heidi McElney. Heidi is the Regional Partnerships Coordinator with the Community Power Agency and has been a driving force behind this entire series. She'll introduce our speakers and facilitate tonight's panel discussion. Thanks again for being here and for being part of this important journey.
Thanks so much, Trevor, and thank you very much for coming along tonight, and to our friends who are online, and thank you to Mari as well from Community Power Agency, who's will be looking through the Q&A during the night in preparation for our panel session at the end. So we'll be having our 4 speakers, and thank you so much for making the trip. Some of you are local, some have driven a bit further or travelled a bit further. We'll have each of our 4 speakers, and then we'll have the Q&A panel at the end. So if you do think of a question as one of the speakers is speaking, please do make a note of it. There are some post-it notes at the back or online if you add it to the Q&A, and then we'll do those questions collectively at the end. So our first speaker is Geoff Bragg. Geoff has been in the solar industry for around 20 years, offering both practical, hands-on technical expertise and high-level industry representation. He creates and delivers continuous professional development training for solar installers and designers, helping them to maintain their accreditation. As a member of Standards Australia's EL42 Renewable Technology Committee, Geoff has contributed to the development of key standards relating to inverter connection to the grid and solar photovoltaic arrays. Through his business, Sunman Solar, Geoff provides tailored PV and energy storage systems, both on and off grid, for the Northern Tablelands. And Geoff is dedicated to informing policymakers and the public on the importance of PV and energy storage in their transition towards decarbonising Australia's economy. Thanks, Geoff.
Thanks, everybody. Can you hear me okay with this? Yep, that's working. I'll just hang on to this. Feels a bit odd. I'm used to a handheld mic. No, it's okay. Thanks. So thank you for that. Thank you for having me, Trevor and Heidi. Thank you for the introduction. Many of you may know me because I'm a local, and lots of you are locals. So it's good to be here talking about the stuff I talk about all day, every day, with you here locally. So in your introduction, Heidi, you mentioned all these things. These are the different it's kind of like my CV and a page. So I started working with New England Solar Power, a local business, a long time ago, nearly 25 years ago, which makes me almost a solar PV veteran, one of the pioneers group, which we have in our industry. And I got involved there as an installer, so I'm quite familiar with the actual electrical work and practical side of solar. And then I got involved with SEA, Solar Energy Industries Association, which is a installers kind of association. And actually, local person, Rob Tabor, told me at a conference, he elbowed me and said, "You'd be good at that, put your hand up, put your hand up." And so I put my hand up, and my career trajectory changed completely. I've been involved in Standards Australia and EL42 committee, as mentioned, and was a director at the Smart Energy Council for about 10 years. And then I got involved in Solar Accreditation Australia, which is the latest iteration of accreditation body nationally for all solar and battery installers, and helped to stand that up. That was last year's kind of project, and once it was up and running, I stepped aside from that. And I currently now work 90% of my time for the Smart Energy Council, dealing with standards and training for installers and advocacy, which in recent months has been all-consuming for me with the Cheaper Home Batteries program. Is this the clicker? And so jumping after all that history, sorry. Sure. I'm sorry. He's over there. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody out there. So just jumping to this year, 9th of April, just before the election, this was a project of mine, one day spent at our conference in Sydney, preparing what we called the battery wall for Chris Bowen, because he was coming to our conference, and he'd just made the announcement on the Sunday evening with a webinar we held about the fact that there was going to be this Cheaper Home Batteries program. And that took all day because I had to kind of herd the cats of, I forget how many now, there was 10 different companies who all wanted to look the best and be in the best position. And it's incredibly competitive when you have 10 marketing managers from 10 different companies and they've all got to be on the same stand. Anyway, we did it. It was a very tense day. And that then led to a media conference right in front of my battery wall, which I was very proud of. So that's John Grimes, who's my boss and colleague and friend, who is the CEO of the Smart Energy Council, and Chris Bowen made his announcement about the Cheaper Home Batteries program. And it was very exciting. You can see actually, just going back, a lot of these batteries, they're all big white boxes. They look the same. They don't all do the same thing. The principle's the same, but each of those products and manufacturers have features that are specific to their product. Some manufacturers do one thing really well and not so well in others. Like anything, there's a lot of competition and a lot of innovation, and that's the latest stuff basically. So Chris Bowen announced the Cheaper Home Batteries program, and basically it's a subsidy from the government using the existing legislation, the Renewable Energy Target legislation, known as the SRES, or Small Scale Renewable Energy Scheme. And they've just tweaked the regulations associated with that existing scheme that's been running for a very long time and subsidising solar photovoltaics. And so they've just kind of said, well, you don't just have to have panels to create these certificates, which then get sold. You can create certificates with batteries as well. So, and they managed to do it by just by regulation. And this was key from the politics of it, because they didn't have to re-legislate. And so it didn't have to go in front of Parliament. And at the time before the election, that was an important consideration. So just by ministerial changes to the regulations, the program has launched and started beginning of last week. So effectively, it means that if you buy a battery now, it is in effect about 30% of the cost of the battery will be paid for by those certificates. So it's 30% cheaper. And the aim is for households and small businesses. It doesn't actually define what a small business is, so don't be scared off when you read things that says small business. Is my business considered small business? Any business, you could be Bunnings, as long as you meet all the other criteria, you're eligible for the rebate. And the idea is to kind of time shift the solar energy from the middle of the day, put it into a battery and use it in the evening, which benefits a whole lot of things. And we'll talk a bit more about that briefly. And another key point about the politics of it is it's fully funded by the federal government. So this scheme has no upward pressure on electricity prices nationally whatsoever. So the current SRES, or the previous one that is based on, that is just about panels, technically that cost makes its way through the financial system and is spread across all of electricity consumers nationally. So it does have a very small but technically upward pressure on electricity prices. And this policy was introduced deliberately. The government buys the certificates, and therefore it places no upward pressure on electricity prices. Good politics. So the intended eligibility for the scheme, basically it covers batteries being installed that are from 5 to 100 kilowatt hours in nominal capacity. That's the maximum size of batteries that can be put in under this scheme. You're only eligible for the first 50 kilowatt hours of that so you can't, but you can have a bigger battery. So imagining a business that might be putting in a 95 kilowatt hour battery, they can claim certificates on the first 50 kilowatt hours nominal capacity. And it kind of doesn't matter what type of battery it is, if it's a modular battery, if it's an addition to an existing system, if it's a series of batteries, as long as they operate as one battery system on the premises. And there are a whole lot of rules around it has to be installed by accredited installers, by licensed electricians, but underneath a whole lot of standards. The products themselves have to be safe, and the way that they determine that is they're on an approved products list, which is run by the Clean Energy Council. And that actually means that at this point in time, almost all, do I need to go back? I got it. That's it. Sorry.
Sorry, I noticed it's not sharing online. So I'm just wondering if we stop sharing and then restarting,
Okay.
whether that will work. You don't have to restart, but
Yeah.
No, I just want to go.
That's great, everyone. Thank you.
So the products have to be on this approved products list. And that means at this point in time, because of the way that products list is administered, that all the batteries that are eligible will be lithium-ion batteries. Actually, that process for listing on the approved products list is currently in review. The standards committees at the moment are on a final draft rewriting that to allow different chemistries to come into the place. So there could be sodium-ion batteries and other chemistries that will eventually move into the approved products list. So, you know, but for now, basically it's lithium-ion batteries, which were all those products that you saw before. How are we going? Can I have my slide back? That's it. Yep. And people are eligible for this whether you're on the grid or off the grid. So there are households who are living off the grid obviously in our area, where they have their own standalone or off-grid power systems, and they're eligible for batteries too. So and usually it will come as a discount. So the person selling you the battery will say it was going to be $20,000. You get $5,000 in certificates. We will charge you $15,000. So it's a point of sale discount in exactly the same way as they do with the certificates created, or STCs as they're called, for solar panels. So it's very, very similar process. The whole idea was to make it as easy as possible. So how do they deliver benefits? Well, the principal one, and the reason that it fits in that SRES legislation is because it's got to be connected with solar. So to be eligible to have to get access to the rebate, you have to have solar being able to charge the battery at that premises. So that's either existing solar that's there or new solar installed at the time of the battery. And if to get the benefit, basically, you time shift the solar production from day to night. You take the energy that was being generated in the middle of the day that otherwise probably would have been exported to grid, and you get paid a tiny amount these days for under the feed-in tariffs at typically 1 to 3 cents. Stick it in the battery and use it in the evening. It reduces peak demand on the network. So there's a significant benefit there for the distribution networks, because in the evening, your house with your battery is not consuming from the grid, it's consuming from the battery when everybody else is consuming from the grid. And it actually reduces the wholesale electricity price at that time in the evening. So the benefits here are for you personally, but they're also for the wider community, because it's actually putting downward pressure on electricity prices in the evening peaks, and reducing the overall cost of maintaining and upgrading the network, and both those costs flow on to consumers, so everybody. So it's good design in that sense. Of course, you can also, if your battery will do it, with backup power be available during grid outages, but not all batteries will cover all of your home. Some batteries will just be certain circuits, so you might keep the lights going and maybe one power circuit to cover the kitchen, for example, keep the fridge going. But other battery systems will be able to back up the whole home. Single phase, 3-phase, just depends on the product. So you want to be specific about what you want when you're searching for somebody to supply a battery. Also, to get other benefits, so that's the kind of solar cycling, solar time shift, and the backup. Then there's time of use charging. So if you had a battery system in yesterday and it was cloudy and there was no sunshine, I can't even remember whether yesterday was cloudy, but if it was, and your battery might have only charged up to 30%. However, if you're on time of use charging with your electricity retailer, it's easy to program a system to charge the battery during the off-peak rates when it's cheap. So the solar takes it so far, but maybe in the evening at 11 o'clock at night, it just, you program it to charge to say, whatever, a certain percentage, or charge for 3 hours at a certain rate, so that in the morning when the peak time comes again, you've definitely got a full battery and you're not exposed to those peak prices. So time of use charging can make a battery with a small solar array still economic, and it can supplement the period of time in the winter where we just don't have the full solar resource to make good use of the battery. So it's a second kind of point of benefit. You charge it when it's cheap and you discharge it when the price of electricity is expensive. And then there's virtual power plants, which you may have heard of, which are where you sign up with a third party who takes control of your battery occasionally and pays you for that benefit. And they use it to help support the grid. They use it to make money when the wholesale electricity prices are really high and there's a high demand for electricity. They press a button and 1,000 batteries in 1,000 garages all discharge into the grid at the same time. And, they sell that energy. They give some of the money to you, and I'm sure they keep some for themselves. So what's that? Exactly. And it will get to that. And the industry generally believes that virtual power plants will become more and more competitive, and that all electricity retailers will be offering them and compete to get your battery, because to them it's a resource that you invested in. They pay you some money, but they can use it to good effect. And it actually, again, flows on the use of virtual power plants. Adds benefit to all electricity consumers, not just you. So I believe governments around Australia are actually, would like to see a lot of these batteries end up on VPPs, because it will get the best use out of the assets. But what we've been advocating for very strongly is that it be optional and that it be up to the consumer, not mandated, as they've sort of just done in Western Australia, which hopefully won't get too much traction. So, and then sort of in that VPP area, wholesale pricing. So Amber Electric is an electricity retailer that uses the model where you get access to the wholesale price of electricity, which fluctuates every 5 minutes. The price is different. And it's a completely different way of thinking about paying for your electricity. If you've got a battery and solar, then it can really work. And it's something worth investigating, but it's really jumping in with both boots on if you buy a battery and then go on Amber. In my view, it's, you've got to understand what's going on and the potential for prices to skyrocket for a couple of hours. And if your battery's flat, not great. But the whole idea is you use smart software. They provide smart software to actually manage that for you. So that's just an illustration of today at 12. That's how much excess energy we have in Australia because of renewable generation. So at that time, everywhere except Tasmania had a negative electricity price. So if you were on Amber, you could be, and in New South Wales, you could be paid to charge your battery. You could be paid to charge your EV. So because there's an excess of generation and not enough demand, and the price goes negative. And it might only last for a couple of hours, but you might, quarter fill your EV or something. Or your battery in your garage. So wholesale pricing is something that's become very popular in Scandinavia, and the people that set up Amber, I believe, have followed that, what's happened and it's got an increasing market share for electricity retailers in Scandinavia. So keep an eye out for Amber and wholesale pricing retailers. when you get a battery installed, there are very specific rules around where they get installed, and it's relative. You cannot install a battery in a habitable room that's defined in the National Construction Code. So in a domestic or residential electrical installations, this is a slide from one of my training things for installers. But if it's a non-habitable room, technically you could put a battery in there, you can install it. So the classic is a garage, and there are all kinds of rules around. That's 2 slides out of 2.5 hours of my training just about where to locate batteries. So it's quite in depth, but when your installer comes and says, oh, I don't know if we can put it here, I don't know if we can put it there, they're probably right because they know the rules. So it's really specific. You have to have clearances from windows, doors, exits, down the side of houses, and it's very complicated, but that's the standard and we all have to follow it. So, and which includes if you've got a habitable room on the other side of a wall and you're, say, outside the house, but you've got a weatherboard house that's a combustible material, then you can't put a battery on that combustible wall unless you have a non-combustible barrier that extends beyond the battery system, and certain clearances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's an example of one from just the other day, which is an off-grid system replacing an old set of batteries. My first claim for the Cheaper Home Batteries program, STC claim, for a guy who's out sort of towards Invergowrie, had a set of batteries that were about, I think, 10, 12 years old and was wanting to replace them, and it happened just at the right time. So he got, in effect, a third of the cost of those batteries. There's another stack of batteries to one side of that. And another one for somebody over near Salisbury Plains, just southeast of Uralla. Typical example of a battery in a garage, a bollard to protect you from bouncing into it with your vehicle, signs everywhere, and a modular battery like most of the ones that are sold now, where you can lift the inverter off the top and add battery modules later. So that there is 16 kilowatt hours of energy storage. Most households use maybe 20, 25 kilowatt hours a day. Some people use a lot less, but if you've got 16 kilowatt hours of storage, you know, if it's full at sundown, as long as that will take you through till sun up in the morning and it's sunny tomorrow, well, you won't have touched the grid at all, won't have used any energy from the grid. And that particular manufacturer, you can have up to 6 of those 8 kilowatt hour batteries in one stack. So you can have 48 kilowatt hours with a range of different inverter capacities sitting at the top of it. So there's loads to choose from. I hope you all investigate getting a battery and making a claim under the Cheaper Home Batteries program. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Geoff. Our next guest speaker is Bridie Schmidt. Bridie is the EV Hub editor for the NRMA, and from 2018 to 2022 was associate editor at The Driven IO, where she carved a niche covering the fast-moving electric vehicle world. Bridie has also shared insights on popular podcasts such as Download This Show with Mark Fennell and Shirtloads of Science with Carl Krzyznicki. When she's not convincing people that EVs are the way of the future, you can find her hiking to a waterfall, sometimes even in the New England. And you can now add the Armadale event to your bio for... Let's have a look at the top.
Great. Okay, cool. So hi everyone. Thanks Trevor and Heidi for inviting me tonight. Just give me a moment while I find my talk. Thank you. So yeah, bidirectional EV chargers, that's what I'm here to talk about, and Geoff's just touched on that briefly. Do I need the clicker actually? Is that?
That's this one.
Okay, cool. So yes, as Heidi's already introduced me, I'm EV Hub editor for the NRMA. That's the roadside assistance company, not the insurance firm. I've been writing about EVs and clean transport technologies since 2018. I own a Tesla Model Y. I drove it here today from Lennox Head, but I do have a local connection. That's my dad there. He went to UNE and did his geophysics degree and spent the summer before I was born traipsing up and down the Ebor Falls Valley, measuring something or other. So yeah, that's my dad, Phil. He was actually also Chief Research Scientist for Geophysics at CSIRO and was there for 40 years. So at home, I've got solar as well as an EV, planning to get a battery, hoping to jump on board these rebates. So I thought I'd just ask a couple of questions first. How many people here have solar on their roofs? Can we get a show of hands? So yeah, lots. So that's part of 4 million people in Australia who have solar on their roofs or houses. How many of you export power to the grid? Yeah, so we've all got, most of us have excess power during the day. How many people here own an EV already? Okay, not so many, but obviously that's something that's growing. And how many people are thinking of buying an EV? Okay, probably about the same amount again, the here and there, not sure. The ones of you who have an EV, do you know if you can charge a device with your EV? Or you're unsure? Couple maybe? Yep. So yeah, look, I think that this is a really interesting topic. It's about the intersection of cars and energy, and it has a really big potential to change the way we think about powering our lives. But you don't need to listen to me. An NRMA survey of 1,300 members showed that 54% of EV owners in the cohort would like to install V2G technology now. It also found that 85% of all the members surveyed park their cars at home for at least 3 days a week, sucking up solar from the sun, and also in the evening when demand for electricity is at its highest and the most expensive. So what are V2L, V2H and V2G? I'll start with V2L because that's what's actually already here in Australia. It stands for vehicle to load, and that means that you can plug a device into the car essentially. A laptop, an electric scooter, lots of things, anything that plugs into a wall. Think of it like a massive battery on wheels, but you can drive it around as well. So that's my laptop plugged into a Hyundai Ioniq 5. So you can see that there's an external adapter. So it's like the charge port that you put in to charge the EV, but instead it's got a 240 volt power outlet on it. Usually the power output of an EV using V2L is up to 3.6 kilowatts. It depends on the model. Some of them might just be 2.2, but that's still a huge amount of power coming out of, you know, that's what is a dryer going full bore might use about 2000 watts. So some vehicles also have a power point inside the car. So this is also in the Hyundai Ioniq 5. And it would be the same on all of the Hyundai Motor Group models, like the Kias and the Genesis. They have a power outlet in the back row underneath the seat, sort of in the centre of the car. So, you know, there's lots of cool ways that this could be used. You could use it camping, get up in the morning, make yourself a proper espresso. You could take a movie projector along and project it onto a sheet for the kids and have an outdoor movie night. If you're someone who works outdoors or on site, you could recharge your power tools and avoid having to, you know, spark up the Jenny. So the next term is V2H. The H stands for home, which obviously means using the vehicle to charge your home. And I think the key thing to note here is that the size of the battery in a car is typically about 5 to 7 times bigger than what you would install at home, although we probably will start seeing people install larger batteries at home with the cheaper home battery scheme. Incidentally, that is the new Nissan Leaf. It's based on the same platform as the Renault Megane E-Tech. It has just been launched and will be available for V2H, V2G in Europe. It's not, hasn't been announced for Australia yet. And then lastly, V2G, which is probably, sorry, I'll just go on to this slide. What do you need for V2H? Obviously, you need a V2G compatible car and you need a house, preferably with solar, if you're going to play the energy game, for example, with the VPP or with Amber. And I'll probably get Geoff to correct me on this, whether or not you need an isolation switch to island your home.
Yes, I mean, it's actually very clearly defined in the standards now,
Right, there we go.
how to do exactly that.
Yeah, okay. So that's something that your Sparky would do when you get it installed. Glad I got that one right. So for V2G, obviously, you need a connection to the grid. So it's not something that people who are off-grid are going to be doing. But in addition to that, it's not as simple as just plugging your car in. Well, it is, but you can't just plug it into, obviously, the power point. You need your car to be outputting the electrons via an inverter. So that would also be known as a bidirectional charger. There are two ways of outputting electricity. It could be done via AC, but that would require a specialised inverter inside the car. What cars can do right now is export it to an external inverter. And so that's what the new standards have made possible. Now that we have the standards updated as of late last year, we can actually, the firms can actually start getting the bidirectional chargers certified through the Clean Energy Council. There was already one certified for use. It was brought in for trials. That was the Wallbox Quasar. That worked with CHAdeMO plugs, which is, so there's two types of plugs, CCS2 and CHAdeMO. CHAdeMO is the legacy plug, you could call it, which comes with the older Nissan Leafs and Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrids. But so that bidirectional charger would cost about $10,000. One of the advantages now of having this standards available for other companies to get their chargers certified is it will have more competition in the market. So we're expecting that the price of these chargers will come down maybe by half. So what's happening is V2G here yet. We do have the 4772 standards updated. So now we can get inverters or bidirectional chargers certified with a CEC. And DNSP approval is the next step, and that's starting to happen. So Ausgrid has just had an announcement that it will allow V2G connections. Essential Energy has approved it for one vehicle and one charger, and Alistair might talk about that later, or
the energy charger. Geoff's presentation was the charger.
Right, okay, yeah. So but that's something that's moving along. So yeah, the next step is obviously that we need more chargers approved, and Sig Energy is the only one that's approved currently. It's actually, as Geoff mentioned, part of a modular system that can be installed along with the Sig Energy battery. So we've had an example of what V2G can do. In February 2024, you might recognise these images from the news. There was a severe storm in Victoria. So it shut down the state's Loy Yang A power station, and it caused outages for 500,000 customers. In response, there was a fleet of 16 EVs in Canberra in the government's REVS trial, which discharged 107 kilowatts back to the grid and helped stabilise the system. And there's some other trials going on. NRMA is conducting a trial with UTS as well, but results for that are yet to be released. So why would you want to use V2L, V2H or V2G? So the advantages of V2L and V2H are pretty obvious. You know, V2L means you can charge something using the battery in your car, and V2H means that you can access power from your car during a blackout, or maybe use it to charge your home in the evening when electricity is more expensive, the same way you would a battery. But why would you want to plug it in and give all that power back to the grid? It's not really about what we as EV owners want, it's about what they can all do when they work together. So power companies are interested in this because a fleet of EVs, like batteries being installed in homes, become part of an extended energy network. They become a distributed energy resource, known as a DER for short. So, you know, having all of these things feeding back into the grid. Obviously, power stations can take, you know, they're expensive to ramp up and down. Meeting peak demand requires things like gas peakers to, you know, provide that extra power during those peak times. So having vehicles and batteries that can contribute to that can help bring prices down, as Geoff mentioned. So power companies are looking to incentivise EV owners to join virtual power plants or VPPs. Which brings us to the big question. Can you make money using V2G? I mean, that's probably what most people are going to be starting to think about. The potential for EVs to assist in situations like the Loy Yang A shutdown grows as more people switch to electric vehicles. But they want to get the EV owner, on board. So power companies will be incentivising EV owners to plug in when it matters most, which is a bit trickier because you don't have your car parked there all the time. But the more EVs you have, the more people going about their daily thank you. The more that will be able to work. So there is one report that suggests owners of cars with V2G could stand to earn an average of about $2,000 a year. There have been some figures thrown around like $12,000, which is sort of more unlikely. But I mean, these are sort of things that are being found out. And of course, it's going to depend on individual circumstances and what agreements or offers from the energy retailer on hand, and what each individual's ability to sell back to the grid when power is needed. And as mentioned, there's already people doing this through companies like Amber Energy, and VPPs will become more common as well. So what V2G charges are available in Australia? So as mentioned, currently the Sige Energy one is the only one that is certified. It's unclear if the CCS2 wallbox quasar will come to Australia yet. Obviously the CHAdeMO has been available for CHAdeMO vehicles. And then there's a couple of other ones that have announced that they're bringing chargers. So presumably they're going through the certification process now, and that includes Numbat from V2 Grid, Ambibox from Red Earth, and a Halo from Star Charge. But what cars support V2G? I've pulled this out of the UTS's Race 2030 National Roadmap. It's a list of car makers that have stated they have bidirectional capable cars in global markets. So you can see there's a wide range from the European car makers through to Korean car makers and other newcomers such as Polestar, Rivian, and Tesla. But in Australia, now this is so small. This is taken from a photo that I took at Everything Electric in Sydney this year. This is a list of vehicles that have been tested with the Red Earth bidirectional charger. And so every single vehicle that they've tested there worked fine with their charger, with the exception of the Porsche and the Mercedes. But other than that, it's all possible. So what needs to happen next? It's still really, as far as everyone can see, it comes down to the car makers. There needs to be software updates to the cars to allow for bidirectional charging to happen, and car makers need to update their warranties. So to my knowledge, I'm sorry, I haven't had time to look into all of this, but to my knowledge, there was a good article by John Sibley from the director at NX that was published on The Driven recently, said that Renault, Volkswagen and BMW are at the forefront of working on their warranties. There was an initial warranty conditions outlined by Volkswagen that suggested that they would offer up to 2 megawatt hours per year and 100 hours of discharge in their warranty. So this is the sort of things that if you're looking at buying a vehicle to use for V2G, you would want to go and ask the car maker before purchase, is what's the maximum power output? And from what I have seen looking around, that's generally going to be about 10 to 11 kilowatts. And then what amount of energy discharge and hours are allowed under the warranty. So where does that leave us? Obviously, with home batteries now subsidised under the cheaper home battery scheme, that's a really attractive offering. But the question does come up, do you spend that money at home or do you put it into a car? Or if it's within your budget, why not both? If you want to find out more, there's a couple of links. Feel happy to leave that up on screen for a moment. And yeah, look, thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Bridie. Yeah. So this is Alistair. Alistair Fletcher is a chartered accountant with 15 years experience in the energy industry, with varied roles leading teams across corporate finance, network program delivery and connections. Alistair is currently managing Essential Energy's energy storage projects. He also hosts a webinar, some of you have probably been along, which focuses on topics of interest for community energy groups within the Essential Energy network footprint. Thank you, Alistair.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me. One of the vision's purposes and values, I'll just show this quickly. We're really looking as part of our vision to empower communities to share and use energy for a better tomorrow. So storage fits, smack bang in the middle of that kind of vision statement for us. Just quickly jumping through a few of these. We're not a retailer. There is always a bit of confusion about who does what in the energy industry. We own the poles and wires across the 95% of New South Wales pretty much. So we don't send you a retail bill. We manage the poles and wires across most of New South Wales. I'm talking today about community batteries. We've got a couple of trials about community batteries. What I wanted to touch on first was just what is a community battery. You may have heard the term thrown around. It's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. Essentially, a community battery sits kind of in front of the meter, we call it. So in a residential area, it would sit kind of in the street. And really, the idea of a community battery is that it will soak up excess solar from all the houses in the street during the day when there's lots of generation, and at night release that solar back to the houses in the street. So that is the idea behind the community batteries, and really supports the renewable energy transition. How do community batteries make money? Essentially, those batteries are traded in the national electricity market. So it was a bit like what Geoff was talking about with the Amber Electric. So generally with batteries, and this is like big batteries on the transmission network as well, when the battery charges and discharges, it's buying and selling energy in the national electricity market. So it soaks up the solar when it charges during the middle of the day. That's generally when the price is lowest or negative, like Geoff was showing. It will charge when it's negative. And that's when all the solar is generally being produced in the houses around it. And then in the evening, when the prices are at its highest, it will discharge. It gets paid by the market for discharging. And that's the time when all the houses nearby are consuming. So essentially, the idea of the community battery is it makes money through that trading and then passes some of that benefit back to the local residents. So that's essentially how a community battery kind of works. What are the benefits of a community battery? So I said before, supports the transition to clean energy. So soaking up solar during the middle of the day, when it releases it at night, effectively it's displacing coal or gas in the evening peak. Although a lot of these batteries are pretty small, but over time, the more batteries you have, the more you displace. You can get better value from your rooftop solar. So if you sign up to one of the trials or other things underway with community batteries, you get a kind of a benefit back, a monetary benefit back for participating. It maximises residential energy generation. So effectively, if you have a battery in your street, it will allow more solar or more solar panels to be connected to the houses. So currently, when you put in a connection application to Essential Energy for rooftop solar, we will generally cap you at 5 kilowatts of export. If you have a battery out there soaking up some of that solar, the network can take more export. So we can allow more export if you've got a battery out there soaking up some of that excess solar. And really, the last one there is really, it's a bit of a feel-good story for the community. You know, you get to generate your own electricity, you get to store it locally, and then you get to consume it locally. So that's a really kind of good benefit for the local community. Why community batteries? Our view is that you need storage at every level, at transmission, distribution, and behind the meter. The energy transition needs a lot of storage. Really, it's hard to see where all that storage is going to come from, but really we see it's needed at all levels. Community batteries also offer some benefits over behind the meter batteries for customers. So if you don't have space for a battery in your house, if you don't want a battery in your house because you're nervous about a fire start or something like that, you don't have to worry about maintaining a battery, well then potentially a community battery is an option that kind of removes those hassles for you. Community batteries can also play a role managing network problems. So if we have a voltage problem or if we have a transformer that's overloaded, batteries can help resolve those kind of issues for us. But currently, from an economic point of view, the community batteries kind of really struggle to match it against behind the meter batteries or the giant batteries you see at a transmission level. So, I mean, the in-home batteries don't quite make economic sense, which is kind of why the federal government stepped in with the rebate, which does make it much more attractive. Community batteries, they really struggle. And part of that is to do with if you're doing a ground mount community battery, you've got civils work and things like that. Also, they're not really mass produced. In-home batteries are mass produced. The transmission level ones, 20-foot shipping containers, fairly mass produced. Community batteries are kind of fairly bespoke. Their volumes are small. It's kind of more costly to make. So at the moment, they're not cost effective. But part of the reason why we're doing trials and pilots, part of the reason why the government's running grant programs is to see, can we give it enough of a push to make them viable? It's a bit like solar in the original days, didn't really make much sense, but through the rebates, became very popular, prices came down, and now it's everywhere. So will community batteries get to that level? Hard to tell, but we're kind of interested in trialling it and seeing what benefits we can get out of this. The big one for community batteries is also social equity. So batteries in your home, if you can afford solar, if you can afford a battery, you know, that's great, you get a big financial benefit. But for those who can't afford solar or can't afford a battery, they end up paying more and more of the network cost. So it's a bit of a kind of inequitable outcome from behind the meter batteries or solar. So community batteries have the potential to kind of have a more equitable change. Also, if you're a renter or live in an apartment, a battery might not be possible for you. So potentially a community battery might be a way to help you to take part in the energy transition. So there's some really good benefits. It's just at the moment that they don't quite stack up economically. So I just want to take you through 2 of the trials that we're currently doing with community batteries to kind of give you a feel for what's happening. There are quite a lot of trials happening around in the different states through DNSP, so distributors, retailers, community groups, and often they're all slightly different, structured in slightly different ways. So everyone's just trialing them out, trying to get a feel for what makes sense, what's good for networks, what's good for retailers, what's good for customers. So the government had a rebate program or a grant program. So in the 2022 election, the Labor government committed to funding 400 community batteries around Australia. So we picked up grants for 3 batteries in our network area, Leeton, Goulburn and Maloney's Beach, and the maximum grant value was $500,000 for each battery. The federal government selected those locations, not us. I'm not 100% sure what the reasoning was behind those locations, but they're the ones in our footprint. In terms of how big they are, so got in there the dimensions, 2.5 metres by 3.5 metres and about 2 metres tall. So they're kind of, if you've seen a pad mount substation, they're kind of similar in size, maybe a bit taller. The capacity of the ones that we were installing, 192 kilowatts or 530 kilowatt hours. So the SIG Energy battery, I think Geoff was saying, or Bridie, was 16 kilowatt hours. So you know, quite a more battery capacity than an in-home battery. Lithium ion, and with all batteries, there's a bit of noise that comes out of them as well. We install them on 2 concrete plinths on the ground, and you can see the dimensions there. And effectively, it's like 6 different cabinets, 5 cabinets of batteries, and then a cabinet of inverters and some other equipment, metering and other stuff as well. And as part of this, we've been collaborating with New South Wales Fire and Rescue and the other DNSPs to try and come up with some standards around how to deal with these assets if there's a kind of fire issue that comes out of them. This is what they look like. The one on the left's in Leeton, the one on the right's in Maloney's Beach. So you can see the pad sub transformer there. So it's a bit taller, but a kind of similar footprint. This one in Maloney's Beach, we put a bit of foliage around it as well to kind of reduce the visual impact as well for the community. Effectively though, and I don't know if we can see it in either of those, you can see the house in the background. These are kind of in residential streets, relatively close to houses. What are we doing with the benefit? How's the benefit work and how does this get back to customers? So for this trial, the battery, you can see the blue arrow where it was located in Leeton. And what we decided here was we would pay a rebate back or a benefit back to all customers within that green circle. That was kind of the network. They're geographically close to the battery. They're kind of connected in the electricity network around the battery. So it kind of made sense that they were the people to give the benefit back to. Like I said, these batteries don't make a massive amount of money. There's not enough money to share it around the whole town unless you kind of make it a ridiculously small amount. So we tried to kind of maximise the number of people who got a benefit, but made it kind of a reasonable amount. Some other programs, like the next one I'm about to show you, have a kind of customer sign-up process. We decided not to do that here because those who are informed kind of sign up to the EOI and get the benefit. Those who don't realise it's happening miss out. We thought it was kind of fairer that everyone in that area gets it. But then again, it's us drawing a circle. So if you happen to be just outside the circle, maybe not fair. Like it's kind of difficult to kind of make the rules and make it fair with these kind of things. And we pay the customers their rebate once a year, and it was a $75 rebate this year. So we send charges to all the retailers every month. That kind of gets embedded on the bill that you guys get every month or every quarter. So we just added that through and it'll appear on those customers' retail bills as a credit line item, a bit like the government electricity rebate for the last 12 months that you've seen. So it was a fairly neat way to get it back to customers on a bill. The retailers were quite supportive of that. We did the first run a couple of months ago and it seemed to work pretty well. And really it supports that kind of customer equity. Solar, non-solar, doesn't matter who your retailer is, doesn't matter if you have a battery or no battery, apartment, non-apartment, you got the rebate. The second trial we're doing, and we're doing this in Armidale, is one of the communities where we're doing this, pole top battery trial. So we've partnered with Origin Energy here. We've kind of gone in a 50-50 partnership with them. And we're trialling this across 5 different communities. So Wagga, Port Macquarie, Dubbo, Bathurst and Armidale. As part of the trial, we're sharing costs with Origin. Our role is to design and procure the batteries, install them and maintain them. Origin's operating the batteries in the wholesale market, so making revenue by trading them. And then they're offering a storage as a service product back to local customers. So effectively, what they're saying is, you lease a portion of the battery and we'll trade it for you and we'll give you some benefit back for that. And one of the things here, you don't need to be an Origin customer to take part. You can be non-Origin. So that was very important for us. We didn't want to be customers to have to be tied up to an individual retailer. And you don't have to have solar installed either to participate in the trial. So that meant renters, apartment owners, that kind of thing could take part in this as well. So that kind of supported that kind of equity position as well. Got a couple of pictures here of what the pole top batteries look like. So these are just individual battery modules in a cabinet. On the ground, they're probably about 6 foot or a bit, maybe 2 meters tall. They look quite big on the ground, but when you put them up a pole, it's amazing how it kind of just disappears into the kind of rest of the electricity infrastructure. We're trying 2 different types. EcoJoule, it's an Australian business in Wollongong and Brisbane. I think they've got facilities. So they would bring in a lot of the components, especially the batteries from China, but they kind of do all the wiring, all the cabinets, all of that is kind of done in Australia. And then Pixie, they're a European business, quite large European battery manufacturer. You can see there 1,000 kilos and 750 kilos. That sounds like quite a lot of weight, but some of the transformers we have on poles are up to 2,000 kilos. So you might not realise it, but once they're filled with oil, they become very, very heavy. And so our poles are ideally positioned to kind of take that kind of weight. So that's not an issue either. You can see the capacities there, 85 kilowatt hours or 72 kilowatt hours. So they're much smaller than the other batteries that I showed before. And we're really only talking, I don't know, 5 times bigger than a SIG Energy battery. So they're much less capacity in there. But one of the benefits is they call it diversity, the engineers. Everyone uses powers at different times and different amount. A lot of the capacity of your battery at home isn't used for parts of the year. When you put that kind of capacity in front of the meter, a lot more customers can kind of benefit because you're balancing out all that load and generation. So we think we can kind of support around 20 customers, even though it's only about 5 or 6 times bigger than an in-home battery. There's a couple of the installed pictures. So down on this bottom picture, you can see we've actually got 2 relatively close. We pair them with transformers on the overhead network, but they can be kind of on poles pretty close, parks, middle of the roads. The one in the middle at the top's got an ocean view. So the benefit of these, even though they're smaller, we've got hundreds of thousands of poles out there, so you can really get them deep in the network and help solve network issues easily. We can put one up in a couple of hours, so you can, all these ones had a new pole. We've got a standalone pole just for this trial for these ones, but even with the pole, they can all kind of go in 4 or 5 hours. They're up, connected, commissioned and operating. So they're quite quick, but like I said before, they're kind of expensive at the moment because they're fairly bespoke and you're kind of ordering in small quantities. And so how does the product work from a customer end on this one? So this is a bit different. Origin's doing the kind of customer side. So their virtual storage product, as they're calling it, you can kind of lease up to 4 kilowatt hours of that battery. There's kind of a monthly $15 monthly fee to lease your portion, and you get back the benefit. So they're estimating the benefit to be $300 or $400 a year-ish. As part of this trial, we're guaranteeing no one's worse off. Obviously, this is just a trial. We're kind of testing how these batteries work. Origin are testing what the customers want from a product like this. So they're doing a 12-month contract, but you're not really locked in. You can get out at any time or you can extend at any time. So no joining or exit fees, auto-renewed, and open to Origin and non-Origin, like I said before, and solar and non-solar. And really the trial at this point, probably run for another 12 or 18 months. We've probably only just got the last of the batteries in recently. We've had some teething issues with them, but they're settling down and starting to operate quite well. So we'll run them for another 12 or 18 months, get as many learnings as we can about how well they solve network problems. And Origin will test different products and see what customers want. And that's it from me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Our final speaker is Sally Hunter. Sally is Managing Director of Jenny Energy, a founding member of the UNE Smart Region Incubator, where we are today, and a third-generation cattle farmer working with husband Geoff and sons on a farm near Narrabri. Her home is surrounded by a food forest, another of Sally's passions. Yet beyond her property boundary, more and more land is taken up by coal mine expansions and coal seam gas development. In 2020, Jenny Energy was founded, opening an office in Narrabri, with the goal of helping locals to implement renewable energy solutions that benefit the environment and the economy. In this time, Jenny Energy has helped install enough solar and batteries across farms, homes and businesses to generate over 1 gigawatt hours of renewable electricity every year. This year, Jenny Energy has hosted the inaugural New Energy Expo in Narrabri and has been working with the Narrabri community to plan and install the Narrabri Community Battery, directly demonstrating what transition in rural communities could look like. Thank you, Sally. Is your preferred tool? I might just go with this one.
Trevor has a very worried look on his face. We have faith. Greetings, everyone. Thanks very much for coming out this evening. And thank you very much to Heidi and Trevor for organising this evening. And in a moment, we will have a PowerPoint presentation. So mine is all images anyway, so it won't be the end of the world if it doesn't pan out. But it feels like such a great privilege to be here at Nova, because this is a place of innovation, ideas and bold new thinking. So it feels quite relevant to be talking about this in this location. So I'm going to start with something that we're all familiar with. You don't need an image of it to get it in your brain. It's those electricity bills that we've all got. And it's an opaque jumble of numbers, usually. Maybe the bill's going up again. Maybe you're sighing. Maybe you're shrugging. For decades, electricity has just sort of been there for us. It's been a background utility. You flip the switch, you pay the bill, and you move on. We flip the switch. We haven't paid the bill. But what if, instead of being at the mercy of that bill, you had more knowledge? What if you had more control? What if you had somewhere to turn to that could help you better understand this foreign land of kilowatts and kilowatt hours, of inverters and induction and drivetrains? What if someone could bring you and others together to learn how to turn your home into a tiny power station of its own, fueled by the sunshine and your car quietly charging in the garage from your own rooftop? This was the vision of Jenny Energy in 2020, and it continues to be promoted now as the idea of local energy hubs, which we hope will soon be scattered across rural Australia, helping people with this transition. Our cars are getting bigger, Look at them get bigger. And guzzling more fuel. Our petrol prices, they're going up, they come down. Alakazam. And this is my beautiful family. And we're getting awfully close. My presentation is called Power to the People, Electrifying Our Future Together. So yeah, this is my family on our little farm. And as you can see, we've got our own solar system there and some batteries in the background. And is that good to go? Great. There you all get a preview of how fascinating this is going to be. So, family, power bills, terrible. But what if you had Jenny Energy to hold your hand and help you through these things, or a local energy hub in your own community? Our cars are sucking up that money. Petrol prices are going up, they're going down, they're unpredictable, and they're at the whim of global markets and distant wars. But what does the world look like where you can fill up at home? There's a lot of concern about not enough public charging for EVs, and certainly compared to fuel stations, there are a lot less options. But what if you think about all the charging possibilities? Many people have forgotten that every single power point in Australia is a charging station. And in fact, there are over 500 million charging stations in Australia when you think of it like that. Charging from a normal power point is possible. And many farms have 15 amp power points, which are also great. They give you a slightly faster charge. And at our home, we put in a 32 amp plug for very little cost, which essentially gets us around 100 kilometres of driving per hour of charging. We've had our EV now for 3.5 years, and we've done over 115,000 kilometres. So that's basically an average of 100 kilometres per day. We live 50 kilometres from town on country roads, and we treat our EV like a farm ute. My son calls it the redneck Tesla. We live on 10 kilometres of gravel. We've been through floods. We've been through drought with our EV. To fuel up a diesel car, this would mean we'd be spending around about $20 every single day. Now, for us, on a good sunny day, it's completely free. Totally worst case scenario, we're saving $13 a day. Best case scenario, we're saving $20 a day. So literally tens of thousands of dollars saved every year. Plus, our EV requires absolutely no servicing. So take that drain out of your life. Our favourite road trip, which is the image on the right here, is when we travel from home to Sydney. I'm at Narrabri. Did I mention that? Heidi mentioned that. And it requires a stop for lunch at Hollydean Winery. Terrible. And we've not yet managed to finish our lunch before the car has finished charging. Travel is an absolute pleasure. And the image on the left is the car charging the barbecue, running the electric barbecue at an event that we had in Narrabri, and we ate sausages from the car charged barbecue. It's very fun. So as we mentioned, our electricity bills keep on rising. For us, over the last 6 years, the cost of our electricity component on our bill has increased an average of 5% per annum, and our daily fee has increased on an average of 7% per annum. So the other factor that's kind of shocking is that our export of our excess solar has taken a huge dive, decreasing by an average of 26% per annum. So, these are some of the community groups that we've helped install solar for over the last few years in the little bubbles there. And we used to be able to happily say, yes, your bill will likely halve when you put on your solar, but the dynamics have changed quite considerably now. At our house, we used to be able to export enough solar each day to offset the daily fee. We could export about 15 kilowatt hours a day, and that would give us a zero bill on our daily fee, not on the overall bill. But now we need to export about 70 kilowatt hours a day to achieve that, which is impossible. So we know that our rooftop solar exporting to the grid now just receives a few cents, and it's getting worth less each year. That daytime energy that you once sold is now almost worthless. So what if you just get to keep it instead? Enter batteries. You put your excess in the battery, you run your hot water system and the pool pump during the day using some technological smarts if you're not home. In our house, our excess solar washes the clothes, heats the water, fills our battery and trickles into the EV. Our bills are around about $200 a month for the 5 of us, plus our EV. What if there was a fleet of batteries across our community that were orchestrated together to create a virtual power plant, like people have mentioned this evening, where we could share our excess stored energy with others when they need it, and so both the energy and the profits stay local? The old electricity grid was designed for one-way traffic, power from a coal station in the Hunter flowing out to us, no flexibility, no chance for feedback, and plenty of carbon emissions. The future grid, through Essential Energy's leadership, means every home, every farm, every town is both a user and a contributor, where we can optimise our low voltage grid without building new transmission lines, just by using what we already have more wisely, where our industrial shed roofs and car parks are covered in solar, where community batteries like our Narrabri battery soak up local solar and provide it back at night. Essential Energy says that there are 8 gigawatts of spare capacity in the local network. It's already there with no new transmission required. That's enormous. Let's use it. Solar production is expected to grow. This is just the numbers from the Essential Energy network. So they expect it to more than double. But this brings with it some limitations, as Alistair mentioned as well, such as curtailment of our solar, where the solar is stopped from being exported, and export limits put on it. This free electricity can be kept at its generation source and released to the grid when people need it. And this can only happen when we have storage, such as batteries. Feeling disconnected, the cost of living is rising, vulnerable people are slipping through the cracks, our community is eroding, and we isolate ourselves. But what about power with a purpose? When you invest in community-owned projects such as Manila Solar, or join community-based virtual power plants, or become a member of your local electrification group, you're not just saving money, you're shifting the balance. You're becoming a player in the market and you're connecting with your community, with like-minded people. And with battery scale community batteries, such as the one in Narrabri, this is the beautiful artwork that we have. The benefits don't stop there. Ours will feature local artwork of endangered species, and it'll give back to local non-profits who are doing renewable energy projects. It'll be a conversation starter, it's certainly done that, and a landmark of hope. This will be the decorations on our community battery once we get it going. Thank you. A future defined by increasing climate disasters, more floods, more fires, more heat waves. And despite this, massive new coal mines are still being approved in New South Wales and new gas fields are being pushed ahead. Brand new carbon emissions are being added daily despite our net zero targets. We know that electrifying everything, powering it by renewables, is the fastest, cheapest way to cut emissions. It's the lowest hanging fruit, along with stopping approvals for new coal mines. Fast, fair, focused action, and it's not hypothetical. In our home and on our farm, we've taken some steps. Gas stove, gone. Electric fences, run by solar and battery, in the little trailer there. Motorbikes replaced by horses. Rural communities are at risk of being left behind again as the energy system changes, or worse, they are expected to passively accept large changes to their way of life. We want to see rural communities leading. The renewable transition depends on the bush. But to benefit from it, we need to understand it. It's a complicated space. We're lucky to have experts tonight to talk to you about it. It's got tricky rules and markets, technocratic language, and more maths than I care for. By engaging in this transition, though, we are best placed to see the solutions and create the innovations that we need. We already have too much solar energy during the day. It's being curtailed and our exports are worthless. So in some places, you're being paid to take the electricity during the day. These are fertile grounds for new innovations that can work off this basically free energy. My favourite example is from a pig farmer in Biloela in Queensland who uses the pig poo to create biomethane. And as time went on, they found that they were producing far too much electricity from the pig poo. And so now they've set up a Bitcoin mining terminal. They're literally making money from poo. And the pig farmer that I was speaking to said, I've got no idea what that means, but it's making money and it's free to produce electricity. So very cool. Electricity is a bit like water in Australia was decades ago. It was taken for granted until we realised that it had limits. Now, just like we learned to capture rainwater, use grey water, build tanks and time our usage, we can now do the same for energy. The game has changed and we are no longer just passive consumers. Well, that's just fun. And just to provide Alistair provided, a couple of case examples for how community batteries are used in their network. And the one at Narrabri is a different use case example again. It trades directly with the grid as well. And it's incentivised to help out with the solar situation because of the tariff that is provided by Essential Energy. So it's incentivised to absorb the excess solar during the day and then provide it back to the grid, receiving a rebate in the evening for providing that service. So I invite you not just to put a battery on your home, although that's a really great start. I invite you to learn. Ask yourself, how does this system work? How can I plug in? Where do I plug in? What can I do? What can we do together as a community? Because this is a new energy era. Every home is a power plant, every town is a microgrid, and every one of us has a role to play. The future is not just electric, it's connected, it's beautiful, and it's ours if we choose it. Thank you. Thanks for getting the PowerPoint working. Appreciate it.
Battery, the sausage dog. I'm just wondering how much is it'll go with giving them a rebate?
The dogs. Yes, the battery's probably cheaper than the dog now.
All right, would the speakers like to come and take a seat? And so, great. So Sanaz is kindly going to, if you have a question here, put your hand up and Sanaz will take the mic around. I should also.
You ready?
Do you need that one, or is that for the panel, that mic?
Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. So we have a sharing mic. And we will also be taking, so Mari, we will throw to you and you can share some of the online questions here and there, if that works. Okay, let's go.
Has the New South Wales government considered the use of schools as sources of electricity? They use electricity for a very short time. If they were covered in solar panels, they could probably supply electricity to quite a wide range of houses around them. I just wondered if any thoughts about that.
Would you like to take that one, Sally? Or do you?
I can just say what I know. I know they have been running a solar schools program for a number of years, and lots of public schools do have solar now. And then the New South Wales government has been supporting batteries to go into schools as well. And there's now 76 schools across New South Wales that have batteries in them right now operating. And they're also rolling that program out more widely in New South Wales.
I'll just add that electric buses actually can play that role as well. Not so much in Australia that we do have them, but they're mainly used at airports to my knowledge, and there are some in Sydney. But I know that overseas I've heard of electric buses being used for school runs, and then they're just sitting there during the day. So those batteries used in a V2G situation can be used in the same way.
I hope it's okay. I'm going to ask two questions if that's okay. The first one to Alistair. After the trip, what is it? Can you detail if there's any plans for the following the trial of the community battery here in Elmdale? And another one for Geoff, if that's okay. With an interest to look into a battery for my home. I've got solar panels on the roof. The first step would be to try and compare all the options. Is there a cheat sheet or any information comparing all the options to make it easier?
Should we start with the,
I'll
you
go first because mine will
yeah.
be pretty quick.
Yeah.
At this point, part of the trial is just to figure out, do we think we can make it economic if we try to do this at scale? So the batteries have only just been installed, so we need another 12 or 18 months to really understand, will it work?
And the answer about there is no cheat sheet, unfortunately. It's an incredibly dynamic market of manufacturers, distributors and retailers. And so what is available this week will change a month from now, and so on and so on. So unfortunately, the industry is supposed to give you offerings and you've got to compare them. There's Finn Peacock runs a thing which has actually been bought by, who bought, Origin bought it, a thing called Solar Quotes. And there's a lot of articles on there, and some of the journalists in there from a technical background that do compare products, are pretty reasonable people with very knowledgeable. So that's one thing I can recommend.
Well, hello, and thanks for coming here today. Cal Hughes is my name. I've had a solar business now for about 20 odd years. I'm pretty well retired now. Won't climb on a roof anymore. Just recently, I've been following a guy called Tony Seba. That's S-E-B-A. He's based in California, and he's a futurist who has been doing a lot of predictions about electrification and all sorts of things in agriculture and humanities and so forth. But he's saying that all the captains of industry all do their predictions on a straight line graph. But he's shown that over the years, most things that are really good innovations take an exponential graph. And he uses the car as an example, where in 1910, took a photo in New York and there was 100 horses and one car. And in 1920, there was 100 cars and one horse. And he's saying that irrespective of political things, the electric car and batteries and solar panels are going exponential. How do you see that happening here in Australia as well?
The changes are happening so quickly. It's hard. I don't think anyone's got a good grasp of exactly where anything's going. But, like in Norway, over 90% of cars are EVs now. Like China is about 50% of sales. Like there's still only a small proportion of total cars, but new car sales, so in some areas they're catching off very quickly.
Bridie, did you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it's the curve of adoption. So we get this with any new technology. We've seen it with smart TVs, for example. When they first came in, they were super expensive. People started getting them in their homes, people that could afford them. Then I don't know, other people's kids went over there and said, oh, they've got a TV, it's massive. But, you know, like as these new technologies scale, they become more affordable and then they start becoming normalised within the community. So, you know, you start seeing more EVs around. Globally in 2024, 1 in 4 cars sold was an electric car. So that's kind of hard to think of here in Australia yet. We did tip over the 10% mark last year. There's been a little bit of a dip. The latest sales figures are just getting over 10% again, including plug-in hybrids. So Australia's a little bit behind the rest of the world, but we will get there. We don't make cars anymore, so we are going to be getting the cars that are being made overseas.
We might take one. Oh, okay. Gary, and then we'll go to online. Mari, if that suits you. Yep.
Thank you. I'm trying to understand the difference between a battery in a car and a battery in a house. And the battery in the house doesn't need the DNSP as I understand it, whereas the battery in the car does, if I understood your talk correctly, Bridie. So I imagine, therefore, the DNSP is actually in the battery, the thing that whatever that is the DNS provides. Does that mean that you could buy a house battery that had a plug-in, so you could plug your car into it, and it would then provide it directly to the grid?
I'm not sure I'm actually the person to answer that, but what I will say is that where the car differs from a home battery is that it requires an inverter, just like a battery. So a battery needs an inverter to feed electrons back into the grid. A car needs that as well. But where we're at is car manufacturers need to confirm that their cars are bidirectional compatible. So the technology is there, they can, but it's about updating the software in the cars so that they will interact with the inverter, updating the warranties so that your warranty won't be voided by using the battery in this way. But essentially, as far as the networks are concerned, it's electrons through a converter, through an inverter. So it doesn't really matter what's on the other side of the inverter, but it's really sort of basically down now to the car manufacturers saying, yep, let's go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say a DNSP is just another name for the network. So there's not a DNSP in a EV or in a battery. Like, it's just another name for the grid. And so effectively for the grid, we just see kind of you consuming or exporting, whether that's coming from a car or a battery or solar panels. Our main concern is, what does that do to the grid once that energy comes on or comes off? So we don't really mind what you do behind the meter. We're just more worried about what impact you have on the grid if you're adding more load or adding more generation. But yeah, what you do behind the meter is kind of up to you. If you need a bigger connection, that's where you'd need to kind of come to us. If you need to draw more power or you want to push more power out, that's where you come to us.
I'd just add in there that all the distribution network service providers, DNSP, they're the networks around the country, including Essential Energy, want consumers through their the company that does the work for you will have to make a connection application with the network, go through exactly the equipment that's going in, where, when, how much, what model number, and they vet anything that you connect to the electrical installation. So they want to see if you're going to put in a special bidirectional charger, they will want to tick it off and say, yes, we accept. And if it needs to be on an approved list or whatever, then they're the gatekeepers of what can be connected to their network, as it should be.
I'll just add one little thing about the practicalities of the house battery compared to the car battery. You know, I mean, the biggest thing is that the car battery is so much bigger than what you can buy for your house battery, and you kind of get the car for free as well. That's once the car is able to charge your house, which is not happening yet. But what you don't want to have happen, the worst case outcome is if you have a battery on your house and your car is dragging electricity out of that battery, that's your worst case scenario. You don't want that happening because the car is so much bigger than your house battery.
Great. Okay, Mari, we might pass over to you. Do you want to
Yeah, sure. Just turning on my camera. Hi, everyone. So we had a question from Peter, and I thought maybe it's something that a fair few people have wondered. For Geoff, what's the approximate lifetime of a home battery, and what's the impact on battery life from, say, things like extreme heat or cold? Does that influence where you should locate the battery at your home?
Yes, so typical life of lithium-ion battery systems is sort of 10 to somewhere between 10 to 15 years. That's what we expect. You know, they're relatively new technology in this application. Most the leading manufacturers will have a 10-year warranty, and in the warranty conditions, they'll specify the energy throughput, how much energy can go in and out of it during that 10 years, and how much capacity will have been lost at the end of that 10 years. So typically it might be 20, 30% lost after 10 years of daily cycling with the battery. The temperature extremes do have an impact on the life of the cells in the battery, and so some battery systems will have an active temperature management system in it to try and keep it cool or keep it warm, depending on what's happening, whether it's charging or discharging. But generally speaking, the most stable temperature, not in extreme heat in the summer, so not on a north wall. They'll actually specify it in their installation instructions that you shouldn't put it in full sun, or it'll have reduced capacity or reduced lifetime. So yeah, you're looking for locations that are kind of as comfortable as they could be for humans, and then it will probably give it the longest possible life, and it'll make it to the warranty period.
Thanks, Geoff. Would I be able to squeeze in one other question?
Yeah, I think Bridie was just going to add to that one. Then yeah, feel free to
Yeah,
ask.
sorry, Bridie.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought I'd add in regards to what I know about EV batteries, just because it's a common thing that people sort of think, well, the EV's got an 8-year warranty or a 10-year warranty on the battery. That means that I'm going to have to get a new battery by then. There's actually a lot of data coming out that says that EV batteries are not degrading as fast as expected. Most of the degradation happens in the first couple of years, and then it levels out. I know, you know, just as one anecdotal example of somebody who had a Model S, he does airport pickup, so he's driven 600, he's actually done more than 750,000 kilometres in it now, but he had the same battery for 600,000 kilometres, which is, you know, 20 to 40 years of driving for most people. There's a really good website called Recurrent Auto, which has, I think, 20,000 or so people signed up to it who own their cars, give them data. So they've got a lot of long-term data about battery degradation on their site. So that's a really good place to go and have a look. Don't think that buying an EV means that after an eight years, the battery is not usable. It still is. It has degraded a bit, but probably not as much as has been expected.
Thank you. Yep, Mari.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. So there was another question from Sheenan on VPPs. And so Sheenan's heard that they can drain batteries and was wondering, you know, are they worth it? What are some things they should look out for when they're thinking about VPPs? Might be good for Geoff or even Sally as well.
So it's totally open to the market, as far as I know. So one VPP operator might say, we will discharge or charge your battery a maximum time of 60 times a year, and you'll receive extra credit on your electricity bill. Another one might be 100 times a year or have limits on the depth of discharge. It's literally a competitive market. So in Western Australia, just recently, the state government there has just announced a sort of, if you want the state government battery rebate, you have to sign up to the Synergy VPP. And to do that, because they know people are so skeptical about handing control of their battery to the networks, they are basically paying you back the money that they for the electricity they charge it with. Anytime you export it, you get paid 75 cents a kilowatt hour. They're doing the absolute most positive sell as you can to do to break down the apprehension of people to sign up for a VPP, because they know that it's difficult to convince people to do it. And you know, presumably, and they have capped the number of discharges or charges to 30 times a year. I think it's 30 times a year. So it's a really good offering. But, you know, that's a kind of state government thing to get people signed up to it, because they believe it's going to be beneficial for everybody. So you've got to just shop around, basically, and look what the conditions are. Yeah.
Good advice. Maybe I'll just, while Geoff's got the mic, I might just ask you a question that was sent in. I think Greg emailed it in today. What are the considerations when scaling up a PV system? Say if somebody wanted to increase their generation capacity before putting on a battery, and are there any compatibility questions when installing a battery?
Second part of the question first, absolutely. So it depends. You know, most battery manufacturers who sell product into Australia know that it's vastly a retrofit. We have, you know, the millions of rooftop solar systems that don't have batteries. So they're most likely to come up with products that can be retrofitted to existing solar. And then there are different ways in which they can be paired together. There's what's called DC coupling and AC coupling, and it all gets very technical, which I won't go into. But if you have an existing solar array that is still functioning and is electrically tested to be in good shape, I would always encourage people, leave it there. Like, let it get its life. You know, we don't need to take more panels off roofs and put them sitting there waiting for our recycling program that the Smart Energy Council is working really hard to get off the ground nationally. We need, you know, to get good life out of the products and do the right thing by what this whole industry was supposed to be about. So if you can leave the existing arrays and they're still safe and they test well, then have them incorporated, either DC coupled. They can be left alone electrically. They don't, if they're not modified, they don't have to be altered. Like, they don't have to be brought up to current standards. As long as the entire wiring system is left in place, that can be joined to a new inverter with batteries or whatever. And yeah, try and keep your old array. Sometimes people's roof's already full and they're kind of going, how can we get an extra 5 kilowatts on the same area of roof? So you need to modernise and take down the old panels. But, you know, hold on to them, for goodness sake. Don't anybody put stuff into landfill, because we're going to have, we're pushing really strongly. There's been a trial in Queensland for a collection and transportation and for assessing panels for reuse and then recycling if necessary. And we need that to be a national thing, and we're pushing really hard nationally for that. And in fact, the amount of solar panels that we expect to be taken down off roofs because of the Cheaper Home Batteries program, because, you know, it stimulates people to upgrade their system, is more silver in it than the largest silver mine in Australia. So it's a really significant resource. So we need to get those things in place, you know, just for efficient use of resources. And just one other thing on that Cheaper Home Batteries program, which I have to say, is that it's going to be taken up really rapidly. Like, the evidence we have after just a week, the numbers that we're seeing, and the price of battery cells is coming down rapidly because of EV deployment around the world. And so it's highly likely that the cost of these battery systems will start to come down more rapidly than it has been. And I'm very confident that the government will adjust the Cheaper Home Batteries programs if the price of cells starts to drop dramatically, because the objective is to take about 30% off the cost. So if after a couple of months they find, oh, goodness, these systems that, you know, the price is coming down, they're going to reduce the number of certificates. It's quite within the minister's power to just say next week, as of Monday, instead of 9.3, whatever it is, certificates per kilowatt hour of battery storage, it might be 7. And in fact, they've already published the tables that suggest how each year it will reduce the incentive for batteries will reduce in what they predict will be the reduction in battery cell costs. But the news out of China lately is that that price is coming down really rapidly. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 3 months we see an announcement from the minister going, well, it's been going great and everything, but we're just going to turn it down a bit because the costs are falling so quickly, which is reasonable, and it will then spread the benefit across more people rather than using up all the money quickly in a small number of people. So
great explanation. Yep. Should we go to a question from the floor just behind Sanaz?
Are there batteries available that don't use lithium?
very few. And at the moment, there are other battery chemistries, but that are commercially viable and available, and then they're not available. If there was a battery manufacturer making sodium-ion batteries right now, who's one of our members at the SEC, they cannot be eligible under the Cheaper Home Batteries program because they're not on the approved products list. So we're trying to get that fixed by revision to the standards and allow different chemistries in. So it will come, but at the moment, the vast majority is lithium-ion. Different chemistries within lithium-ion, lithium-ion phosphate, lithium, nickel manganese, and the other things, they're all similar. But that's the vast majority of the market right now.
Great, you still have time. Yeah, we can, if anybody, it is 7 and we did say we'd finish, but we can probably do another 10 minutes if people are up for that. If you do need to leave though, feel free.
Hi, just wanted to know if lithium can be fully recycled in Australia.
Yes, but not at scale yet. Not at scale, but it's coming,
There's also evidence to show that recycled lithium is better to use in a battery. So once we get that recycling up to scale, it could be reused in batteries and, I don't know, higher energy density or faster charging. I don't know.
There's a plant. I think in Adelaide, there's a plant that Tesla are trying to get off the ground in a sort of semi-industrial site, but there's huge opposition to it. And what they want to do is take batteries and recycle them. So it's really hard, when, and I know Elon Musk is poisoned politically, but, it's a company and there's people trying to do things, and obviously they're going to make money. But if you've got a manufacturer who makes lithium products, wants to do the right thing and make money out of it, well, we should get behind them anyway.
I think the other thing to note about batteries is it's not like they get to 10 years and they just stop working. That what everyone talks about, especially with vehicles, is that the capacity reduces, so that basically your kilometres reduce over time. And that's why, they sort of say this lifespan. But yeah, it doesn't stop. Like old mate that was driving around for 400,000 kilometres, it's just that the battery needed to be charged more often because it's got less capacity over time.
It did start slowing down. The charging was so he couldn't charge it as fast. He was able to get it replaced under warranty. So, yeah, that's what that's about.
Geoff, I'm Geoff. Just a bit confused with the access wholesale pricing scheme. Can you explain it a bit further?
Oh, so accessing wholesale pricing in the as a consumer, so you sign up with an electricity retailer who is just like signing up with Red Energy or Origin or AGL, but you sign up with, in this case, Amber is the only one I know, Amber Electric. And they'll explain to you how it works, but basically they might send you a thing on an app on your phone to say the electricity price, it's 7 o'clock at night, it's about to go huge, cost you $15 a kilowatt hour. So turn everything off. But of course, if you have so if you don't have a battery, well, that's really tricky, but because you've got to be really smart to make sure that you consume energy when it's very cheap and don't consume it when it's very expensive. But the intelligent way about it is they provide an app. So if you have a solar and battery system, then they can control, you set up the parameters on the app and say, when the price is this, I want to buy, when the price is that, I want to sell, and then it will literally do it for you. And I believe that the software associated with that is constantly evolving, and so it can learn your consumption habits and do the right thing. And that's where the term smart energy comes from. So, and the talk is that model of being able to access smart software and the wholesale price is that will become more attractive to people, and there'll be more. At the moment there's one retailer doing it, but we expect there'll be more.
Okay, great. I might just throw it over to the online crew. Or while Murray's getting, oh, you're there, Murray?
Yep.
Okay, go for it.
Ready to go. So we also had a question from Ben for Geoff again. So he was wondering, he's got solar on a farm shed and was looking at the battery rebate, but was wondering if he'd be eligible, as it would probably be considered as part of his small business. So yeah, any thoughts or reflections on that?
No problem. He would be eligible as long as the batteries, the total battery system is less than 100 kilowatt hours. It's got solar on site. Yeah, business, it's no problem. It's just the scale, just like businesses have been able to create STCs, the certificates that have made solar panels cheaper in the last decade or so. Just the same way he would be eligible to add a battery, as long as all those things are met, like it's on the approved products list, etc.
Great,
Yeah.
good news. Just a tip just a question about EVs and renters. Is it possible to be an EV owner? And I guess it depends a little bit what you want to use your EV for, but any tips on renters, for renters?
Maintain a good relationship with your landlord. But also, I think landlords are probably going to look at their landlord insurance. So yes, technically you can plug your EV into any PowerPoint. Factors that you might want to take into, and this goes with any homeowner when you're plugging into a PowerPoint, is considering what else that circuit is hooked up to, the age of the circuit. Ask your Sparky to check it out if you have any concerns. I have, like you, got a 32 amp dedicated line. I've got a 15 amp one, runs straight from my circuit board to outside the garage. So that's where I plug in. Before that, I was running an extension cord out of the garage. I had a breaker unit in between the PowerPoint and the extension cord, just to make sure that that would flip instead of it potentially burning out that PowerPoint, because I wasn't entirely sure about that at the time. But it would still, it was on the same circuit as our laundry. So whenever the washing machine was on or the dryer was on, it was the load was too much. So that's, getting a dedicated circuit is a really great thing to do. But yeah, if any concerns at all, ask your Sparky to check it out. But for renters also, talk to your landlord and see, they might even be, interested in installing a wall charger, if that's the sort of thing that might keep you there if you're a good tenant. Or your workplace, that's right. Yep.
Great. Okay, we might do one final question from the floor.
1.5 maybe, Heidi.
Okay.
Well, one's a basic question in that we're a couple who are just looking at putting in for the first time solar panels and a battery. And we're a bit nervous about making sure we've got a reputable operator who's going to come in and do it, because, well, there's loads of them around. But I think, Geoff, it might have been something you said in your presentation. I can't remember exactly who said it, about older weatherboard houses and not having a battery against a weatherboard wall. Did I get that correctly? Because I'm pretty sure that when the last person came and had a look and told us where they were going to put it, they didn't say anything about not putting it against a weatherboard wall.
So it's really specific. So firstly, the person installing it should be accredited for batteries on grid accreditation. It's a specific class of accreditation, not just solar. It's actually so they won't be able to claim a rebate for you unless they have that accreditation. So, and they have to take selfies standing there geotagged. It's all really tight in terms of regulation. It's called GCBS, Grid Connect Battery System, GCBS accreditation with a company or an organisation called Solar Accreditation Australia, or SAA. So no, Clean Energy Council only handles products now, so they no longer do accreditation of installers. Yep. So and so the rules around the Australian standards, ASNZS 5139, which is the document that describes installation, is really specific about where batteries can be installed, distances from doors, windows, surfaces that they can be attached to, and it's dependent on what the room is on the other side of the wall. So if it's a non-habitable room like a laundry or a bathroom and it's weatherboard, no problem, you can put a battery on there. But if the room on the inside is a living room or it's a habitable room as defined under the National Construction Code, then you can't put it there unless you put a non-combustible barrier on that wall. So if there's somebody sleeping on the other side, the idea is although these products are tested to a dozen international standards and they get on this best product list and everything, there is always a risk, however slim, that it's a fire risk because it's a huge amount of energy stored in a box. That's the key to it. So the standards mitigate that risk by having a non-combustible barrier where you've got a habitable room on the other side, and they're just the rules. So they should know that, and if you were an installer and the system was audited, and I know the Clean Energy Regulator is going to be doing targeted audits of this new program intensively, then they would be required to come back and fix it or lose their accreditation or be... If they still exist. Very good point. Yeah. So, which brings me to choosing a retailer. When I say a retailer, I'm talking about someone selling you the battery and installing it. My experience of 20 years in the industry is that people who are new to the industry jump in quickly and lots of excitement, and but haven't seen where things go wrong and don't know the broad system. So my suggestion would be that companies that have been in trading in an area for more than 5 years probably have had some problems and learned from it. You know, that's how we all learn. We make mistakes and do it again and try and fix it. Companies that are offering the cheapest possible product and the fastest possible installation, it is just dangerous. You know, it's the poor man pays twice. Yeah. So I would suggest that, you know, in trying to find the right retailer, you are the one making the approach, not them making an approach to you. So if they're knocking on your door trying to sell you something, they're probably not the people I'd be choosing. I would be seeking out somebody who's been doing it for a number of years, has the full accreditations. And again, like the statistics would show that companies that actually employ, or they are the accredited installer, you're more likely to get better service and long-term service. If they get something wrong, they'll come back and fix it. If they're employing subcontractors who get in a truck and take off from Brisbane for the day and do 16 installations, you're not going to get a good outcome. So look for people who have been trading for a longer period of time. That's my take on it.
Great, thank you. We might just do one last question, and I haven't prepped you for this one, but everybody can answer. What do you see the future of batteries 10, 15 years? What kind of battery storage might we be looking at?
One of the things we're going to look at probably in a trial, or hopefully, is a flood battery. So it's got no critical minerals. It's just pumping an electrolyte from one tank to another, storing energy, no fire risk, or, can be made in Australia. Every part can be made in Australia. So I think those kind of batteries are quite interesting. The other chemistries that are going to come along. But yeah, like, it's changing so rapidly. Almost daily there's a new breakthrough in something. It's so hard to tell. And on the EV front, in America, Waymo are doing driverless ride shares. So there's hundreds of thousands of trips a week in driverless cars in America already. So from an EV point of view, you'll just be sitting in the passenger seat soon, or lying across the back seat.
Human-driven cars.
I guess my interest is not so much in the technical side of batteries, but in the ownership models and the, the benefits that we can create out of those. And so I'm excited to see what those opportunities are. I don't know the answers, but all I know is that if we get stuck in, we will figure it out.
It's a hard one to answer because, as you said, the technology changes so fast now, and there are so many different announcements every day. It would be great to see solid state batteries. They're supposed to be a lot longer lasting, but then, we've heard Toyota saying they're working on that for years now and still haven't commercialized. So in terms of EVs, obviously it would be really great to see EVs used in a way as distributed energy resources and actually bringing electricity prices down for everyone. So, I mean, I do see that the financial attraction of getting people on board from the DNSPs or from the retailers is there is a long-term goal for that, and that is to, bring more equality to energy access, and of course with community organisations doing, keeping the energy local, making it local is a great thing to see too. And I just hope that that's, completely normalised within 10 to 15 years.
Great. Geoff, would you like to, anything you want to add there?
I would just make the comparison to photovoltaics. So when I started, I started playing with panels in like the 90s, like the first panel I bought was about that big and it was 40 watts and it cost me retail about $550 and it was that big. And now the panels that I can buy for wholesale, probably $80, are almost 2 meters tall, 450 watts of solar, warranty for 20 years. And that's China, basically. I mean, they made a strategic decision, the government did years ago, to become a leader and to basically dominate the world market. But in doing that, they've mass produced it and brought the costs down and the reliability up and, the material science and everything. So when I think of that in my time in solar, how it's changed, and I think about, I don't know, the life of a wind farm of, say, 30 years, like I suspect by the time that wind farm's being decommissioned, we won't need large scale stuff. Like it'll be on your roof and you'll have enough batteries in your walls or under the floor or goodness knows what. But it'll be, if it follows the trend that PV has, it's going to be completely different. It's just a shame, as my boss John Grimes was saying he did a thing with the National Press Club yesterday, was talking about how Australia's innovation and we've got this incredible resource of people that have developed these solar technologies and we never effectively commercialised it. And so now's our opportunity, because we have this enormous solar resource in Australia and wind resource. We have this huge renewable energy resource, which nobody else has got almost. And it's a massive opportunity. So I hope that in 20 years' time, we're making stuff that was developed at, University of Western Sydney or something, and then actually deployed here, and so we can make an industry and make jobs and decarbonize, and send carbon-free steel pellets to China rather than sending ships of ore, So anyway, it's a huge opportunity. It's great.
Excellent. Oh, well, thank you so much to our panelists. And thank you so much to everyone for coming along and online as well. And we'll wrap it up there. Thanks.